Welcome in here, VSiN At The Track, another Thursday edition here. Make sure you download, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or you can always check us out over at VSiN Live on YouTube. We've got a loaded show today, Aaron. We got to talk a little bit about this Breeders' Cup Classic division. We saw fierceness in the Pacific Classic. We saw mind frame and a lot of shenanigans in the Jockey Gold Cup over the weekend as well from Saratoga. Some nice 2-year-olds to talk about, and we've got to preview Kentucky Downs as well. I'm Mike Somich. He is Aaron Halterman. Aaron, how is it going today?
You know, it's never disappointing and it's never boring, is it, horse racing? No. There's always something weird happening. I saw a couple things that I don't know that I've ever seen happen last weekend, and it happened to be in the biggest races. So, yeah, lots to talk about. The Classic division is kind of crazy. We thought we'd see some really great performances, and I think we kind of did, but maybe just not in the way that we kind of thought. So a lot to go over, a lot to get to, but like I said, it's never boring.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that Pacific Classic division. I've got the updated odds right now for the Pacific Classic. We'll go over that after we discuss, for the Breeders' Cup Classic, after we discuss both the Pacific Classic as well as the Jockey Gold Cup. But before we get into that, I want to remind everybody here, ExpressBet, First Bet, the presenting sponsor of VSiN At The Track, as well as the sponsor for horse racing over at VSiN. Make sure you check out firstbet.com. Now, with that said, Aaron, let's get right into the Pacific Classic. I want to save the Jockey Gold Cup for the second race here. And the Pacific Classic, well, it didn't have the on-track drama, or as much as the on-track drama as we saw in the Jockey Gold Club. There was drama before the race. Nysos scratches with a foot injury, which we've gotten, zero updates on since last Saturday from Bob Baffert or anyone inside the Nysos camp. Fierceness does come out and a little goofy early, almost runs himself into the rail, breaking from the one post, but then runs the best race of his career, or at least a top 3 race of his career, gets a 107 buyer, winning the Pacific Classic. Journalism just not able to chase him down, even though there was a very hot pace. What did you make of Fierceness? What did you make of this Pacific Classic? And what do you do with Fierceness going forward?
Well, I mean, you just throw Fierceness in races going forward and say, if he shows up, we're going to win. If he doesn't, we'll run last. I mean, that's kind of how he is. Maybe not last, but close. He is fascinating. So basically what the jockey and the trainer has told us about Fierceness forever is he doesn't like to be around horses. We like to keep him on the outside. We believe if we keep him on the outside and we keep him away from all the other horses, he'll be just fine. None of that happened here. This was a race. Like you said, he breaks from the rails, so that's kind of tough for him, right? Because you want to keep him outside horses, you're breaking inside of all of them. That's a problem. Like you said, I thought he was going to jump the rail. There was a temporary rail that they set up when they run 1.25 mile races at Del Mar. He ran right to it. Johnny V did an amazing job to get him to kind of straighten up. But when he did that, Mike, he's behind almost all the horses. And so all of a sudden, everything they say is just going to be awful for Fierceness is happening. Dirt's in his face. He's behind every horse. And so I'm thinking the whole race, well, he's just not going to fire. They ask him to run, and then he just splits 2 horses like they're standing still, takes the lead, and then just dominates. So I really believe nobody really knows from race to race what this horse is actually going to do. I think he's got a mind of his own. He's going to do whatever he wants to do. And look, we got the best version of him, and he was able to beat a horse like Journalism, who I do think ran pretty well. If you want to flip it to Journalism for a second, we got to get a new jockey on Journalism. I'm sorry. This horse is running like Zenyatta. And if you don't know who Zenyatta was, if you're new to racing, she was a horse that liked to get way behind, like 20 lengths behind. Journalism's not that kind of horse, but yet there he was, Mike, way behind for some reason. He still runs up into second, but he's never going to beat a horse like Fierceness if he fires his best race, if he's that far behind him.
Yeah, this was just a funky race overall because I was like, well, why is Journalism so far back? That was my first thought. And then you look at the fractions, and we're looking at 22-4, 45-4. So very fast early fractions, especially compared to what Journalism has been facing. So he was actually going about as fast as he has gone in all these other races. Now, the difference is that California paces are different than Kentucky Derby paces, than Preakness paces, than Belmont paces, than New York paces, than Haskell paces. It just goes a little faster in California, and so it's not as rare to see a 22 and change, 45 and change, 46 and change opening furlongs, and then see these horses stick around later, and that's what we saw Fierceness able to do over this track. Very similar to what he was able to do in the Breeders' Cup Classic last year, where he ran what I believe was really his best race of his career. I'm not sure that the depth that journalism behind was the reason that he lost this race. I think Fierceness just fired his A race, or A plus race, even if you want to say that. And we've talked about this for a while. The bugaboo with Fierceness is not talent. The issue is not the skill. The issue is the ability to show up, race in and race out. And his next race is going to be the Breeders' Cup Classic, and it's going to be at Del Mar, a track we've now seen him fire two of his best races of his career. I'd argue it's the Travers, the Breeders' Cup Classic last year, and now this race here at Del Mar. He also ran really well at Santa Anita, winning the Breeders' Cup Juvenile the year prior. So we know this horse loves California, and that's going to be a big issue when we look at what the odds board's going to look like when you add in Sovereignty, when you add in Sierra Leone, Forever Young. You have journalism who's expecting to be there. I think it's going to be fascinating to see what the public does and if they decide they want to back this horse again and what those off odds are going to be. We saw a ton of money on journalism. He was 1-9 early in the betting. You were getting 4-1 on Fierceness. Now that averaged out. You ended up with 8-5 on Fierceness and 2-5 on journalism, but he clearly was ignored in my mind in the wagering. When you take out Nysos, 8-5 on Fierceness was actually a pretty generous price.
Yeah, you're right, because there was nobody else to bet in that race other than those two when Nysos scratched. Yeah, look, if it's any indication of what's going to happen, which it may or may not be, they do a media poll every week of the top 10 Breeders' Cup Classic horses. The Breeders' Cup themselves do it. I vote in it. And Fierceness was the number 2 horse in the poll this week, right? Which tells me he's probably going to be the second or third choice in the Breeders' Cup Classic. The problem with him is, and look, 8-5 was, like you said, it was actually a really good price, and it was good enough to bet him because there was nobody else to bet in that race. But when you get in a race like the Breeders' Cup Classic and you have a horse that is inconsistent as he is, you kind of want 4 or 5-1, in my opinion, to bet him in this spot because he's not like the other elite horses where you kind of usually what makes a horse elite is they're going to show up and they're consistent and they're going to run really well every time. He has elite talent in just a sporadic form, so you always kind of want some kind of price on him to kind of overlap that we have no idea what he's going to do today type thing.
Yeah, and that is we're going to put a pin in that there because this was also the best price we've seen on Fierceness since Breeders' Cup Classic Day, which is interesting because that field was much more difficult than the field that he faced over the weekend in the Pacific Classic. But 4-5-1, we'll put a pin on that because I do want to talk about the odds after we get to the Jockey Gold Club. Before that, Nysos. What do you make of this? I mean, because Baffert talked about this horse on Friday before the race, said everything was going great, horse was doing well. Saturday morning, we find out the horse is going to scratch because of a foot injury. Nysos has had trouble staying on the track previously. We saw a long layoff, then he comes back. He looks like a monster. How concerned are you around this injury? Do you think the Breeders' Cup Classic is still the long goal? And do we see Nysos before then if he does run in the Breeders' Cup Classic?
Yeah, great questions. I'm pretty concerned. I'll start there just because it's Bob Baffert, and you see his horses get injured a lot, and sometimes they don't come back for a while, like Nysos did the last time he was injured. He was gone for a long time. Now, Baffert did say this was a minor foot issue. Like you said, though, to open this show, we have no updates since. That was just the day that he scratched. That's what he said. No updates. Baffert kind of said in a DRF article that the Goodwood on September 27th at Santa Anita would kind of be the likely target. They do want to run him one more time before the Breeders' Cup. But the quote that was very interesting to me, he said, we may go to the Breeders' Cup Classic after that, or more likely we might go to the Dirt Mile. So that kind of tells me that, A, we may not see him again, because we're already lowering those expectations, which is always a bad sign. And B, even if we do see him again, are we really going to go to the Dirt Mile? And what does that really mean for the Classic? Probably means he's out. So I don't like it. You never want to have anything go wrong when you're training up to a big race, that's for sure. But I really don't like what I'm hearing from the camp right now of Nysos.
Interesting they're talking about the Dirt Mile. Citizen Bull comes back over the weekend, your 2-year-old champion. He runs very well. He is pointing toward the Dirt Mile. It seems odd to have two Bafferts in there. Like, why would you have Nysos and him there? If I was going to put Nysos in the Breeders' Cup and it's not the Breeders' Cup Classic, I'd throw him in the sprint. Like, he's been awesome going one turn. So I'm kind of surprised to hear the Dirt Mile talk there. All right, let's shift gears here, and let's talk a little bit about the Jockey Gold Club Sunday at Saratoga. This was just a mess of a race. A lot of stuff to unpack here. We saw Phileas Fogg break from the 7 post. We had the 6 horse as a rabbit in there, forced Sierra Leone to set him up. The 6 doesn't break well. Phileas Fogg breaks well and tries to clear the whole field. Very aggressive move from the jockey and causes a chain reaction, which ends with Irad Ortiz on the ground. But before that, he was actually sitting on White Abarrio's back. Now, he was riding Mindframe, who was the favorite or second choice in the race behind Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone also drastically affected by this because when Irad Ortiz is on the ground, Sierra Leone, very athletic move to avoid the jockey on the ground, essentially sidesteps him but costs him 3 or 4 lengths and then forced 3 wide in the first turn because of it. We'll start out just with the start. What's your take here on what Phileas Fogg did? Was it overly aggressive? Was it race riding? And then just how does that factor into how you kind of assess this race moving forward?
I don't know really how you assess it. I'll kind of give one opinion before I answer your question. I do think Antiquarian, the winner of the race, put it all together and ran a big race. Now, am I saying he would have won without all this other stuff happening? Probably not, but at least you could say, look, he ran a very good race. Now, to analyze what really everybody's talking about, Kendrick Carmouche aboard Phileas Fogg, he has been suspended. I think it was 4 or 5 days. Yeah, he probably should have been. Like he did cut over, and like I said, it caused a chain reaction because the 6, the 5, and the 4 were all kind of right there together, and Phileas Fogg just kind of cut across, and everybody just moved in, and then it was Irad who gets the worst of it there on Mindframe. I've never seen a jockey and he was doing it, talking about Irad Ortiz, just to try to stay up. I've never seen him jump on another horse like he did there, and he's trying to get on White Abarrio. And then what he was trying to do is stay on White Abarrio. He still had a hold of the reins of Mindframe, and he was going to try to jump back on, just so he would, not fall. Obviously, and that could have been catastrophic. He almost did it, Mike. Like he almost got back on Mindframe. He just couldn't. I mean, it would have been an unbelievable feat. So he falls, and then, like you said, Sierra Leone does everything he can to kind of avoid, and Flavian Pratt aboard Sierra Leone, to avoid seriously hurting Irad Ortiz. We can kind of chuckle about it now because he's fine, but that could have been, catastrophic. And then, like you said, at that point, okay, you've got Mindframe, the second choice, and in some people's eyes, really the first choice to win the race. He's running loose without a rider. You got the best rider in the colony down on the ground, and you've got Sierra Leone, like you said, he got majorly affected by it. It's like, at this point, it's like this race is kind of a non-factor, right? So I will give Antiquarian credit because I feel like people really aren't talking about it. He put it all together. He ran a great race, but he had to have multiple things happen to win it.
Well, I want to give Irad a little credit as well for once he was on Sierra Leone, Zayas almost falls off White Abarrio. He actually grabs Zayas and pulls him back toward White Abarrio at one point. So he is keeping another rider on a horse that he was forced onto, right, because of the chain reaction, and then almost pulls off getting back on Mindframe. It would have been one of the most athletic moves I've ever seen. I'm also fascinated. Had he got back on Mindframe and Mindframe somehow wins the race, does Mindframe come down? Because he was literally sitting on White Abarrio at one point. So I'm not sure what would have happened because it wasn't his fault. None of this was his fault. This was Kendrick Carmouche's fault. And I understand what Carmouche was trying to do. When you have a rabbit in the race and you are the speed horse in Phileas Fogg, you're trying to get over. And if the 6 doesn't break well, your goal is to clear the 6 so that you get the best possible trip. Now, he kind of overestimated how well he broke. And that's why he wasn't fully clear of the 6. So when he ducked in, Davis ducks in, and it causes this whole issue. But man, Irad's ability to jump from horse to horse, pull back the other jockey, and then almost get on his own horse was phenomenal. I do want to give flowers to Antiquarian, though. A lot of people are saying Sierra Leone without that start beats Antiquarian. I'm not sure he does. Mm-hmm. I mean, this was a race where Antiquarian gets 107 Beyer. Improves again from the last 2 races. He was still a little goofy in the lane. If you watch the replay, he's looking out at the crowd, and then he kind of straightens out. When he straightens out, he starts running faster again and kind of doesn't allow Sierra Leone to close any of the gap late, close to the wire. This is a horse that we've talked about a lot on this show, and that really has broken our hearts the last 2 races because he was the best horse in the last 2 races and ends up losing both of those. Now he comes through and scores at 13-1. I'm really interested to see if this is just the continued growth of Antiquarian because I compared him to Mindframe last year where we saw Mindframe just have a goofy race in the Haskell, have a goofy race in the Belmont, and then kind of figure it out early into this season. It feels like Antiquarian's starting to figure it out. And now if you're a numbers person, if you're a buyer person, you're looking 107, that puts him smack dab in the middle of this Breeders' Cup Classic group.
Yeah, he actually got a higher buyer than Fierceness, which is only by 1 point, but still, it's like it puts him in that realm. And I was smiling a little bit, Somich, when he won, because I was like, we knew this. Like you and I have banged the drum.
Like how pissed will be if Antiquarian wins.
And I mean, it's like the blame, which was his first race of the year. He was easily the best horse in that race, and he was totally awful on the turn, just blew the turn. And Suburban, he didn't blow the turns, but he lost significant ground on the turns, ends up losing by a narrow margin. He was better, yeah, for sure. And I'm with you. Like, I do think he's kind of, I think people are going to look at it and go, well, yeah, he won because Mindframe didn't have a jockey and Sierra Leone, blah, blah, blah. But I am kind of with you. I think Sierra Leone would have beat him, honestly, but I think it would have been razor close. Like, I really think it would have been very, very close because, Antiquarian ran a big race, and he ran a number that Sierra Leone can definitely run, but it's one of his best races that would have had to beat him. So, I'm with you on that. You mentioned the Irad Ortiz thing. If he would have got back on Mindframe, finished the race, would have happened. I'm 99.9% sure Mindframe comes down because I've seen it before where a jockey might like graze another horse just with their whip and they get disqualified. So I don't think it would have stood. Now, a jockey on top of another horse and then back on his own horse, I would think that would have been a disqualification.
See, I would assume it's a DQ if you caused it, but he didn't cause it. So that's where I think the whole bugaboo about this would come from, is like, if it's not his fault, and it was not his fault that he got forced off of Mindframe, can you blame him then if he gets back on Mindframe and wins, if he had to use another horse as a way to stay aboard? It would have been fascinating to see what would happen. It would have been awesome to see him get back on Mindframe just for the athleticism and the feat of it. Happy that Irad is okay. Happy that everyone comes out of that horse rider and the whole race is clean from that perspective. Phileas Fogg gets taken down from third place to last because of taking out Mindframe there in the chain reaction. Now, I kind of tease this. We do have Breeders' Cup Classic odds out right now. So you can bet the Breeders' Cup Classic if you would like to. No surprise, Sovereignty installed as your favorite at plus 150 or 3-2 right now on the board. Feels kind of short, I'm not going to lie, with how good this field is. Sierra Leone 6-1, your second choice. Fierceness 8-1, your third choice. Then Antiquarian, Forever Young, Journalism, and Mindframe all 12-1. You said Fierceness at 4 or 5-1 was interesting. Is he interesting at 8-1, even though we're still a little ways out from the race?
Yes, that's the price you want to bet him at. If he's 8, and I'm going to tell you right now, there is no chance he's 8-1 on the day of the race. So if you can find him at 8-1 right now, I think that's the price, right? I mean, that's the thing. You got to build in that liability of he may run 6 today and not try, and literally that's what he does. So you need that price. So yeah, no, I think 8-1 is very playable on him. Honestly, 6-1 on Sierra Leone, I think that's not going to happen on race day either. So I think that's not that bad of a price. I mean, he's the defending champion, and while he only has one win this year, he is in good form. I do think he'll show up and run his best race. It's just the dynamics of the race are going to make it for him. Look, the most likely winner of this race in my eyes is Sovereignty, but that is a very short price to bet 2 months before the actual race. I think you'll get similar price on Sovereignty when they actually run the race the day of. So if you want to bet him, I wouldn't bet him in this future market at 3-2. That's too short. But because the injuries, you just never know. They're horses. He may not make it, and so I wouldn't want to do that. But when you get closer to the race, I do think you'll get 3-2, 8-5, something like that on him, and that's when I think you play him.
Yeah, plus 150, way too short to bet. Now, I agree with you. Fierceness at 8-1. Yeah, sign me up. I get that he doesn't show up every time, but his A-plus race, I still think is good enough to beat this field. We've seen his A-plus race twice at Del Mar now. We know he likes the track, and it is a track that horses can be very finicky about. Some love it, some hate it. So I don't mind Fierceness at 8-1 at all, and I expect he'll be in the gate. He's not going to run again, so the chance of injury is lower for him since he's just going to be in training. So I do think Fierceness is a little interesting at 8-1. I'm going to be fascinated to see what the prices are in the Breeders' Cup Classic, because for this good of a field, or the field that we think we could end up having in the gate, the idea that Sovereignty goes off at 3-2 just seems short.
Yep. Oh, I totally agree. I just don't see. I mean, I'd be really surprised. And like you said, when the past performances come out, you're going to look at them and go, well, these horses aren't that far behind, right? No. And you're going to have a horse like Forever Young who, coming over from Japan again, who ran third last year. He's going to take money. I think it's really, I was expecting 2-1, 9-5 on Sovereignty.
Yeah, it's funny too because Fierceness beating Journalism kind of looked like Sovereignty beating Journalism when you saw just couldn't really get him in the last furlong, and Fierceness just kind of held his ground and was able to win. So we'll see what happens there with those odds as we get closer to it. Two 2-year-olds dominated races dominated by Todd Pletcher over the weekend over at Saratoga. I thought Tommy Joe, super impressive filly, and then Ted Noffey comes back and wins the Hopeful, the kind of marquee 2-year-old race at Saratoga, going 7 furlongs. Both of them clearly going to be players at the Breeders' Cup. Kudos to Pletcher. Had a phenomenal Saratoga meet. Ends up tying for the training title with Chad Brown, something he hasn't done in a while. So Pletcher, great meet with 2-year-olds specifically.
Yeah, awesome. As far as the Breeders' Cup is concerned, we're going to see these horses one more time. There were 7 furlong races, like you just mentioned. The Breeders' Cup races are 1 1/16 for the fillies and for the boys at the Breeders' Cup juvenile fillies. So that's a big question mark with both of them. 7 furlongs to 1 1/16 is a step up. We're going to see him, though. We're going to see him run the distance, so we'll see what happens when they stretch out a little bit. I thought Ted Noffey, the last, let's say 100 yards of that race, he just blew them out. And so I was like, man, if they stretch this horse out, or when I should say they stretch this horse out, what's he going to look like? I was pretty impressed by him in that final stride. And then Tommy Joe, just kind of start to finish, you were kind of impressed with, right? Set right off the pace, was very patient. They were going too fast, and she just dominates down the lane. I think both of them are going to be, sub 5-6-1 in those Breeders' Cup races, assuming that they stretch out. I mean, they have pedigrees to say they're going to stretch out okay for their next starts, but we just never know until we see it. I think both of them are going to be big-time players, though. Yeah,
I think Tommy Joe probably the favorite in the 2-year-old fillies version of the race. Ted Noffey is going to be interesting because you've got some Bafferts that are waiting, and those Bafferts are going to take money. Did beat Butane in the Hopeful, a Baffert entrant that's shipped from California over to New York, but gets a 98 buyer, which is a very, very good buyer for the Hopeful, not a number that we usually see. And the fact that we didn't have to go gate to wire to get that, I think, also impressive for Ted Noffey in the second start there. Over at Kentucky Downs over the weekend, we had the $3.5 million Nashville Derby. That's won by Wimbledon, not ton. Thanks, guys. Wimbledon Hawkeye wins at 5-2. End up beating Burnham Square, and then your pick Hill Road runs third. I thought it was a good race. I gotta say, Burnham Square keeps trying to pull me back in. I really like this horse, and I was like, why are we trying the turf? What's going on here? Burnham Square ran huge because no one really closed, and Burnham Square did close this weekend. Interested to see if they decide to keep Burnham Square on the turf or we see him shift back over to the dirt. But I thought Wimbledon Hawkeye was very good, and I thought Burnham Square might have revitalized his career.
Yeah, right. We were both like, yeah, we're done with him. Feels like they're just taking stabs. And then halfway down the lane, I'm like, oh no, I didn't use him, and he's going to win. He felt like the winner of this race as he was closing. He was gobbling up the ground. But Wimbledon Hawkeye did dig down and was able to hold him off. So that was good because we did use him. We did not use Burnham Square. But you're right, he looked great. Now the big question is it Kentucky Downs, or will he go to the quote unquote normal turf track and be able to do that? So that'll be interesting to see. But he was impressive. I thought, I'll give Hill Road a little bit of a shout out. He looked like he wasn't going to run a step, and then all of a sudden he did get up into third at a pretty big price. He was just horrific looking early in the race. I was like, wow, this is going to be a terrible top pick for me. Then at least he ran okay, and it wasn't embarrassing. He never really threatened the top two, but he did run up nicely into third. But I as far as races in the United States moving forward, Burnham Square's won now. Unfortunately, Somich, we were done, and now we're back in again because he did run. He was very eye-catching. He ran a very good race.
Yeah, he once again becomes relevant here. I mentioned speed. Look, speed was great at Kentucky Downs all the first week. You had to be forwardly placed. You didn't have to necessarily be in the lead. But, man, if you weren't within 3-4 lengths, it was almost impossible to be able to win one of those races. And that, I think, kind of gives the hat tip to Burnham Square, who was sitting in 7th early, and Hill Road, who was sitting in 10th early, to both run up to 2nd and 3rd and make this race look a little bit more impressive than necessarily it was when you just look at it on paper. Now, with that in mind, we're going to talk about some Kentucky Downs races, specifically this Saturday where they have the Mint Millions Festival going on. Before we do that, if you're looking to bet any of these races, make sure you head over to firstbet.com as the official horse racing partner of VSiN. First Bet is built for horse bettors who demand more. It isn't just about placing a bet. It's about helping bettors at all levels with proprietary AI handicapping tools that provide data insights to help you make smarter bets. First Bet's in-app tools give you win, place, and show probabilities for each runner so you can quickly and easily identify good plays and improve your ROI. Right now, take advantage of an exclusive limited time offer for a $250 sign-up bonus. To claim the bonus, you must use promo code VSiN250. That's $50 more than any other promo code you'll find out there when you sign up with firstbet.com or on the First Bet app. That's promo code VSiN250 over at firstbet.com. And we're going to kick off the action from Kentucky Downs here with the Mint Millions race number 7 on Saturday's card. Very interesting field. We talked a little about Major Dude last week. He is back this week because he did scratch out. But this is the Mint Millions is always a fun race. We're going to go a mile on the turf, $2.5 million, grade 3 company here. And you get Spirit of St. Louis in this spot, who's 6-1 on the board. We've got Brilliant Betty, who's coming back here as well. Epic Ride in this one. Laganos returning after a week off, after dominating last week at Kentucky Downs. So interesting field here, Aaron. Who are you going with on top?
Yeah, you're right. It is a very interesting field here. I'm going to kind of go with the win machine, the number 7 Brilliant Birdie in this spot. Like the price, that's number 1. I do think, hopefully we do get 8-1. That's the morning line. Hopefully we get there with this horse. Like I said, 7 wins out of 11 starts. Does have a win right here at Kentucky Downs. Won the Gun Runner last year. That was a $1.5 million race and was able to get the job done by a length. So good form at Kentucky Downs. Hot lately, obviously. Just wins races, runs very consistently. Coming off of a little bit of a layoff, but you kind of look at the workout pattern. I think the horse is going to come up here and run a big race. So all kind of positive signs. We talked about it last week. You want to look at horses that have won over the track, or maybe European horses that kind of are a little bit more acclimated to those situations. Those horses have been winning, so I'm going to go number 7, Brilliant Birdie, here in this one.
Yeah, I think Brilliant Birdie's a big-time threat in this race. Has tactical speed, so should be relatively forwardly placed early. This is a 4-year-old, late in the 4-year-old season, so you'd expect that there's still some improvement for Brilliant Birdie in this spot as well. So I respect the 7. Don't think it is a bad pick in any way, shape, or form, but I'm going to go to the rail here. Give me Goliad, 5-1. And this is, we talked about this last week. You want speed. You want horses who like this racetrack. Goliad is like the poster child for both of those things here at Kentucky Downs. If you look at the last 3 races, you're like, well, this horse is on the lead and quits. Did so in the Breeders' Cup Mile, did so in the Shoemaker Mile, did so in the Daytona going shorter. Well, rewind 2 races prior to that. 6 days apart, runs a mile at Kentucky Downs in both of those races, runs the first and second career best time form, first and second career best buyers in those 2 races, wins both of those races, including this race last year at 9-1 over a field that was as good or better than this field that we're facing today. Did that off the bench in one of those 2 races as well, so it's not like you really needed one off the layoff to be able to get ready to roll. Goliad loves this track, is going to be in the lead, gets Flavian Pratt, and you're getting 5-1. I'm just going to take the speed play with a horse that loves the racetrack here in Goliad on the rail.
Yeah, it's a good pick. I don't have anything against it either. That's why I've gotten second. I'm with you on that one as well. Look, and people are going to look at it and say, boy, this horse really isn't in very good form, though. Horse was in terrible form last year when he came up here. The last 2 races before they came up here and won 2 in a row, like you said, in 5 days. This horse was nowhere to be found in those races and came up here and won. So, look, I think he is definitely going to be the horse that takes the lead. You said it at the beginning. It wasn't necessarily the horse that had to have the front to win, but you needed to be up there towards that first pack. And that's why I thought maybe Goliad sets the pace here and Brilliant Birdie's kind of sitting second, third, and runs that horse down. But it could go either way. I'm with you. I like Goliad quite a bit as well.
Now let's talk about the 5 Spirit of St. Louis, who's 6-1 on the morning line. This is a horse that you loved. You correctly picked this horse in the Turf Classic on Kentucky Derby Day. The Manhattan was not great. The 4-Star Dave was not great. We have seen this horse have a lot of success inside New York State Bred Company, but did win the Pegasus Turf Invitational as well. So Grade 1 winner multiple times outside of that State Bred Company. I respect Spirit of St. Louis here. I think we're still a little bit short. I like Spirit of St. Louis going longer, not necessarily the mile, but the talent is there. The trip might be a problem because this is one of the horses that's going to want to come from off the pace.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of him in this spot. Obviously the horse has never been here, so that's it's hard. It's hard to predict what they're going to do here. I don't know. Maybe he kind of peaked in that Turf Classic. I was pretty high on him in a few races before that. It was high on him there. I was high on him immediately in the Manhattan, and he didn't run all that well at all. And I didn't really like what I saw from him last time out. And like you said, that was a mile last time out in the 4-star David. Tough field, by the way. But still, he didn't run very well. And you're like, maybe stretch this guy back out to a mile and an eighth, something like that. And then you see him in this race. It is a little bit like, I don't know. I went away from him here. So if he beats me, I jumped off the bandwagon maybe too soon. I do want to mention one more, though, because the price is a little short on this horse. But the number 13 Laganos,
yeah,
I almost have to use him here, Somich, because he was amazing in the last race just a few days ago, last week at Kentucky Downs. I know it's a short turnaround, but who's that kind of remind you of? Kind of reminds you of Goliad last year, who had the short turnaround and won this race. Can Laganos do the same? I don't know. The price is short, but I was very impressed with his race last time out.
Yeah, I mean, career best number, both Beyer and time form last time out for Laganos, who's run big races before. So you kind of have to tip the cap there. It was a restricted stakes for $500,000 in the Tapit, so you couldn't have won a stakes race in the previous year. So obviously competition a little tougher. The post not really that big of an issue because the first turn is inside. It's almost on the outside, so the 13 is not that big of an issue from a post perspective here. Has tactical speed, should be forward. Jose Ortiz comes back to ride. Not something that Asmussen does often is wheel horses back this quickly, so there's not really any stats around Asmussen inside of 2 weeks and what those horses do. I respect this one. I'm probably going to leave Laganos out because of the 4-1 price, but if you're spreading like crazy in this race, I don't hate the idea of doing it. One horse I do want to talk about, Point Linus here, the 9 horse, coming over from Europe, had some pretty good time form numbers, specifically 2 back in a Group 2 and 3 back in a Group 3. Also a very tactical European horse, so wants to be forward or was forward in Europe. I generally, so like when Breeders' Cup comes around, I don't use European speed horses because the U.S. speed's generally faster. But at Kentucky Downs, I'm a little more interested in European speed horses because they at least have handled tracks like this before, and you would assume that they're going to take to the Kentucky Downs track more than maybe some U.S. horses. What's your take here on the number 9 Point Linus here, 8-1 on the board with Dettori riding?
Yeah, a couple of very interesting European runners, and he's the most interesting to me, Point Linus. I do like that quite a bit. I do like what you said. I kind of watched a little bit of the replays, and it felt like this is a horse that does like to sit a little closer, and again, that'll work with the track and work out well. So, yeah, I'm with you there. What about, and you backed this horse last time out, the number 3 Cairo came over last time out and ran in the Arlington Million, and he just didn't run well at all. But they kept him here. They're going to run him here at Kentucky Downs. Maybe the conditions are a little bit better. Maybe he just runs a little bit better second out in the United States. I thought the 3 and the 9 were both really interesting. And, again, with the 3, he didn't run well here, but they kept him here more kind of similar to what they run at overseas. And it's like we know the horse was better than the Arlington Million, and now you're getting the price. So I thought the 3 and the 9 were both really interesting.
Yeah, 3 is interesting to me as well. If you go back and watch the Million, Cairo just never comfortable. Like, he never looked like he wanted to be in that race. It was Ben Curtis was having a hard time controlling him early. He was further back than I expected early. That was a horse that, again, showed some speed in Europe, and so you'd expect to see Cairo a little more forwardly placed. My one concern with Cairo, and this is just kind of from a betting perspective, was 40-1 and 100-1 in the Group 2 and the Group 1s that he ran well in, and then comes back and is 5-1, doesn't run that well in the Arlington Million. Yeah. I just a little concerned that maybe he just kind of outran the odds a couple times, but all the numbers back that he should be a player in here. So I would rather use a horse like the 3 Cairo instead of the 13 Laganos and get 12-1 instead of 4-1, but not a horse that I'm like running the window with 2 fists to bet.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's more than fair. And I'm kind of with you. I do like the 9 as far as the European runners a little bit more. But still, it's like, again, we know that horse will run. Well, we don't know, but we know the horse can run better that last race. So I don't know, just something to look at there. 12-1 is a decent enough price. And like I said, if you're spreading, the 3 is one I think I would throw in.
Yeah, I think Major Dude, the 2 hits the board as well, but I'm not sure that Major Dude can win. Lost to Brilliant Birdie, lost to Laganos, 4 back here in the or 3 back. I'm sorry, in the opening verse at Churchill Downs, going a mile. I expect Major Dude to be tactical early, and Velasquez has ridden this turf course very well in the limited sample size that we have so far. So I think Major Dude a player, but I'm not sure I want to put him on top.
I'm a big fan of Major Dude, but I'm with you. I can't do it on top. I think more of an underneath play. Also, it is meaningful that he scratched out of the race to run here. I mean, that kind of does tell me that they do have some confidence in him. They do think he's going to show up and run decent, but he feels like he's outclassed in this spot. And that's my biggest thing with him. I think in weaker competition, weaker races, he certainly is a horse that can show up and win. I'm just not sure if he can win a race like this.
That's the 7th race of Kentucky Downs on Saturday, the Mint Millions Invitational. Number 1, Goliad for me. The number 7, Brilliant Birdie for Aaron. Moving forward 2 races, the Music City for 3-year-olds going 6.5 furlongs, 3 fillies going 6.5 furlongs on the turf course on Saturday's Kentucky Downs card. Another full field where you're going to see a lot of familiar names. We've got a couple European invaders as well. Kilwin installed as a 4-1 favorite here after what was a phenomenal test win over Ragtime, which I'm still not over. Who do you like here on top in the Music City?
Oh yeah, Kilwin certainly. I'm with you on that one. That was yeah. Anyway, all right, let's go to the number 10. She's So Spicy in this spot. I really like this horse. The problem is first race at Kentucky Downs. We'll see what happens. Right, you're either going to take to it or you're not. But you look at what this horse did. Rattle off 3 straight wins in the United States. Won a stakes at Keeneland. Won a Grade 3 race at Churchill. Then went over to Ascot. I don't know why, but they did. They took the horse over to Ascot, did not run well in that race, just a little bit outclassed. But, look, She's So Spicy back in the United States here. I think this is a good spot. I think her best race is just better than the rest of this group. Gets IRAD aboard as well. I think that's a good sign. So, look, I was all over the 10 in this one. I don't love taking favorites at Kentucky Downs. But look, they have actually been winning at this meet at a decent clip. And the ones that have been winning are the ones that have kind of stood out on paper. And I kind of think the 10 stands out. So I'm going to go number 10, She's So Spicy on top.
Yeah, clearly the speed of the speed, going the 6.5 furlong distance. I think She's So Spicy also a standout in this spot. So I do have She's So Spicy at 3-1 on top here. I do want to talk about a couple other horses that are at prices. The number 2. It ain't 2, which is ironic because it is 2. Junior Alvarado rides 15-1 on this horse, trained by Riley Mott, who's a trainer that I like. Cutting back in distance, just showing speed going longer. And we know that at times speed horses going a mile can be very effective at Kentucky Downs because they're forwardly placed and they have a little more stamina than some of these other horses. And my main concern with She's So Spicy, who's the 10 here, is the layoff, right? Have not seen this horse since Ascot. It's hard to ship to Europe and then ship back and still run your best race. Any interest in the 2 horse? It ain't 2 to be able to pull off an upset at a big number here.
Yeah, look, I think it's an underneath type of horse. I do think some of the races this horse has run lately, and specifically the last 2, have been pretty good, but they were at Woodbine, and I always am kind of skeptical, right, of how that translates when they come back over to the United States. The race 3 back at Churchill was not great. The race 4 back at Keeneland, that was not too bad there, so maybe you could draw to that one. I don't hate it. I do think you got to get kind of creative underneath if you're going to play She's So Spicy. I thought the number 7 Pondering made a little bit of sense as well. Horse that has 2 wins and 3 starts here lately. Really a long list of not very good races before the last 3. And you see that sometimes with Walsh horses kind of getting back into form here. The distance is a little bit of a worry. Did win the preview race for this out at Ellis Park. And I thought, I don't know, at 8-1, I just thought this is a horse that I know going to come from behind, but maybe can clunk up and get a piece of it. So, look, I like number 7 Pondering a little bit underneath, but still, I don't know. I just kind of, the more I looked at it, I thought, man, the 10 really just does stand out to me.
Yeah, the 7 will come from behind, but the pace in those last 3 races were absolutely scorching. 21-3, 20-4, 21-1. So I'm not shocked that Pondering not on the lead there. Was about a half or 5 lengths back, so about a second behind the leaders. We'll see if a little bit closer here. I don't think we're going to see a 21 and change pace. So I think Pondering a little bit closer to the pace in this one. Number 3, Classic Q from Mark Casse and Flavian Pratt. Last time we saw this horse was a second place finish in the Grade 3 Lake George up at Saratoga, going a mile and 16th. Before it was a win in the Wild Applause, going a mile on Saratoga's course and going gate to wire. Has never sprinted, but another one of these very fast, early mile and a 16th type horses who's cutting back to the 6.5 furlong. Any interest in Classic Q?
I love Classic Q as far as the horse goes. I was heartbroken in Lake George. I had Classic Q on top. Did have the Wild Applause at least. But look, I think the key is where is she going to be placed early in the race? And you mentioned it. It's different setting the pace going 2 turns on the turf versus 6.5 sprint on the turf. And so what I kind of think made her dangerous and when she really got going is she was getting out on those leads and she was getting really comfortable. I don't see that. I have been shocked before when it comes to paces on the turf at Kentucky Downs. I do want to say that, but I think kind of her analytics kind of project her being a little bit further back, and I don't know what that means for her. I don't have a ton of interest. I would rather play the 9 over the 3 here. If you're going to have another, kind of a shorter price in the mix, I do kind of like Kilwin over the 3, but if Classic Q wins, I'm not going to be shocked because that is a very, very classy horse. I'm just not on her in this spot.
We do have one European shipper, the 5-horse Tabidi, who's coming in for Juddmonte here, a homebred, very well homebred, who's going to be turf sprinting, cutting back to the shortest distance or second shortest distance we've seen this horse run. Debuted in a maiden, goes up and jumps in and wins a Group 3. Gets beat pretty handily in a Group 1. But then runs at Ascot, runs third of 25 horses, going a mile, jumps into a Group 3, and wins with Ryan Moore aboard in that spot. Now ships here 5-1 on the morning line, has been forwardly placed in most of her races over in Europe. I don't know what to do with Tabidi. Like, this is the horse which I'm kind of scratching my head on because I do think there is talent there. We've seen this horse beat a lot of big fields. We know that the style of racing is going to fit because of this European feel you get at Kentucky Downs. What do you make of Tabidi, and what do you make of the price at 5-1?
Well, look, I think the horse is 5-1 because the European runners have had some success here so far in the meet. I wasn't overly impressed with the resume of this horse. Hasn't really been in any of the big time races, but again, what does that really mean coming over to the United States? Usually European horses, they're kind of their second or even third string can come over here and win races like this. So I think it's going to come down to who else are you using in the sequence. If you're playing pick 4s or pick 5s, if you can add this horse or not. If I can go a little bit deeper here, maybe that's a horse I throw on the ticket. Just kind of that horse of, hey, I don't really know what's going to happen here. We've seen European horses come over here and run well. That doesn't mean they're all going to run well, right? And really, a couple of the horses that did run well, like Wimbledon Hawkeye, we talked about last week, you kind of see that coming. I don't know that you can totally look at Tabidi and say, okay, we're going to see a huge effort here. I think she's kind of more of the unknown. And because she's 5-1, that does kind of have me concerned about, do I really want to use this horse, or is this one I can kind of get around?
That's race number 9 over Kentucky Downs on Saturday. The Grade 2 Music City for 3-year-old fillies, 6.5 on the turf. Number 10, She's So Spicy for both Aaron and I. Now, before we jump forward into the Kentucky Downs card, want to make sure I mention, with football season kicking off, now is a great time to become a VSiN Pro. For just $9.99, you can get your first month of VSiN Pro coverage. Head over to vsin.com/subscribe to see all of the subscription options, and note that includes both the NFL Guide, as well as the NFL Guide 2.0 with updated bets, and the College Football Betting Guide, which can help you throughout the entire college football season. Head over to vsin.com/subscribe to see all the different subscription options. Let's move forward one race on the Saturday card, the Franklin-Simpson Stakes, Grade 1 over at Kentucky Downs. And your favorite for this race is going to be the number 8, Spiced Up, lukewarm favorite, I should say, at 7-2. Beat Governor Sam, your second choice in this spot, at 4-1 last time out at Saratoga. This, I thought, was a very difficult race, Aaron. I did not think this was just the 7 and the 8. Where did you end up on top?
You're not lying. This is a tough one, right? You could go a lot of different ways in this one. Another one of these turf races where they're going 6.5, but you've got horses that are like number 4 Dream On, who's cutting back, and where will this horse be placed when cutting back? And you got to look at all those different kind of things. I want a horse that's towards the front. And so for that reason, I went with the number 7 Governor Sam on top in this one. I do think he's going to get, the trip. And I think that's a big key to this. Because I think this is kind of going to be a rider's type of race. There's a lot of just a mixture of weird horses, kind of lack of a better term, entered. So I do like number 7, Governor Sam on top. Irad gets aboard. I thought the number 3 Warheart was kind of interesting as well for the same sort of reasons. I kind of think this horse is going to get a decent trip, be up there. It has won at Kentucky Downs and looked good in one of its better races, I thought, at Kentucky Downs. It was 7 furlongs back last year when this horse won. Now it's 6.5, but similar enough. So I kind of went one of the shorter prices, Governor Sam on top, and then I'm going to get crazy. I like the number 3 Warheart in second.
I kind of flipped it around. So I have Governor Sam in second. I think he makes the lead, and that is going to be a very valuable thing here. Mabaggio, the 9 horses, the other horse is probably going to press early, but he's been going very fast, going a mile. It'll be interesting to see what happens when he cuts back to sprinting. Last time we saw him go 5 furlongs at Woodbine, did not make the lead. So we'll see if Mabaggio able to do that with Flavian Pratt aboard. But give me the number 5, Antisocial, 12-1 on top here. Jorge Darte Jr., one of my under-the-radar trainers that I like quite a bit, talk about quite a bit, who trains exclusively for Colts Neck Stables, trains this one. This is a not this time horse who I like as a turf sprinting sire. He's actually done everything well as a sire, but turf sprinting been one of those that he has excelled at. Horse debuted going short and then comes back off the layoff to start out the 3-year-old season. They try and get him on turf going short. The race gets rained off at Belmont at the Big A, ends up winning that race. Instead of keeping him on the dirt, they then stretch this horse out on turf. And since then, both the buyer and the time form has gotten better every single race. So this horse has just improved and improved and improved. The last 2 races I thought were very good. Runs second in the Secretariat to Giacoso, who we'll talk about here shortly as well. And then you've got the race before that at Colonial Downs where they go 22-4, and this horse wins at a mile with a 1:34.4 time. So very good final time considering how fast the opening quarter was. He attended the pace the entire time, was able to get the win. This is a horse that has early turn of foot, but should be able to also close late into what I think is going to be a pretty fast pace here. So I'm going to take the number 5, Antisocial, here at 12-1, Aaron. Did you consider this one at all?
Yeah, I think this one I'm going to use. I'm going to spread out pretty big here. Antisocial does make a lot of sense to me as well. Joel Rosario, kind of a rider that has success here at Kentucky Downs. And look, I like the cutback. Was sprinting on the dirt early, and then they went going, a mile 16th or a mile on the turf. And I don't know. I just kind of think this is going to fit this horse pretty well. I think I agree with what you said there as far as the breeding. I think this makes sense. So I'm with you on that one. Another one I just feel like I need to play is the number 4 Dream On. I know we're cutting back. The horse has sprinted once, on the turf, but, a couple times I should say, but kind of lower graded races. But I just think that's a classy horse, and I do think 6.5 furlongs, it might be okay for the number 4 Dream On. So that's another one I kind of thought about as well when I was thinking about a top pick. But yeah, Antisocial, your pick. I definitely think a horse that's going to enjoy the cutback.
I'm going to give you one more price, Aaron. Number 1 horse, Golden Afternoon, 22-1 on the morning line here. This horse has sprinted twice in his career. He won both of those starts with Irad Ortiz Jr. aboard. Irad Ortiz never getting off Governor Sam, but his brother Jose Ortiz jumps aboard. This horse has early tactical speed and a little bit of closing kick. Also draws the rail, which is a positive here. 20-1. You could do worse. 20-1 shots. The number 1 horse, Golden Afternoon. That is race number 10 from Kentucky Downs, the Franklin-Simpson turf sprint here, 6.5 furlongs. Number 5, Antisocial for me at 12-1. Number 7, Governor Sam for Aaron at 4-1. Let's jump forward one more race, the Grade 2 Turf Cup, going 1.5 miles over this Kentucky Downs turf. Yet another wide open race here. Aaron, who you got on top?
Yeah, this one's crazy as well. I'm going to go with the horse I think that's going to be in the lead, and I'm going to go with the number 10 Corruption here in this spot. I love that Jose Ortiz is aboard here. He's been riding very, very well here, as we've kind of documented. And he rode this horse last time out at Saratoga to a gate-to-wire victory. It was just an allowance race. I know we're going to step up today, but we've talked about it a lot. Speed makes a lot of sense over this track right now. This horse has it. This horse is very fast. I think can get the distance. You looked at the race last time out at Saratoga. Saratoga was an 11 furlong race. Has 12 furlong wins on the resume. Again, lower levels, but still was able to win. The last time tried 12 furlongs in a stakes race, got second, only beaten by a quarter of a length. I like Corruption here with the way the track is playing. Now, if you get to this race and the closers are winning all the races on Saturday, then maybe reevaluate. But if that track is playing towards speed, I think number 10 Corruption can take him gate to wire.
Yeah, I got Corruption second. Don't mind the pick at all. I do think that is a definite candidate to be your early speed in this race, but I'm going to go to the horse that you have consistently picked, and the 5-horse Mercante here, 5-1 on the morning line. I love the Turf Classic effort, was able to run second in that race to Spirit of St. Louis, but showed a ton of heart. Won the Kentucky Cup Classic prior to that over synthetic, both of those at 1 1/8 miles. That's the longest distance this horse has run. I thought that he had a lot left in the tank in both of those races. I don't think the stretch out going to be an issue, especially over this track where I think it's a little easier to stretch out. I don't mind the fact that we ran fourth last time out as the favorite in the preview for this race, because guess what? That was at 1 mile. And this horse is better going longer. I think the added distance for the Son of Gun Runner is going to be a positive thing, like the 5-1 price as well. And this is the horse that's going to sit second behind Corruption. Mercante is going to be close to the pace. I think turns it on the final turn, able to run away from this field. So give me the number 5, Mercante at 5-1, Aaron.
Yeah, a horse I think I got to use because, like you just said, I've loved him for a long time, and I'm with you last time out. That horse, also, the races were at Ellis Park, and just sometimes horses don't take to that course. It's really nothing against him. I think that he lost there. I didn't take it all that serious. It's interesting to me. The favorite is the number 6 Grand Sonata, and I get why in some regards, like he won this race last year, right?
Yep.
And he's in better form right now. Last year he was 15-1. This year, if he's 4-1, I can't do it. I did think about him. And then, like I said, when the morning line came out, I was like, man, if this horse is around that price, that just doesn't feel right to play Grand Sonata. I wouldn't be shocked if he wins. It just doesn't. I just can't do it at that price.
Yeah, the price is too short. I'd rather take Fort Washington, who beat him last time out at 9-2, than play Grand Sonata at 4-1, even though Grand Sonata does like this Kentucky Downs track. And he's one of the few horses that has a win over this track. The 4 Vote No also has a win, but Vote No sitting there on the board at 30-1. So race number 11 on Saturday, the Turf Cup, going 1.5 miles on the turf. Number 5, Mercante for me. Number 10, Corruption for Aaron. Now, make sure if you've enjoyed any of these previews or you're excited to hear our best bets, which went 3 for 4 last week, by the way, you subscribe, rate, and review to VSiN At The Track, wherever you're getting your podcast, be it on Spotify, Apple, or if you're checking us out over on YouTube, throw a thumbs up for us so we can get out to as many ears and eyeballs as possible and continue to grow VSiN At The Track. Now, with that being said, Aaron, let's head to our best bets here. And you're going to fire on Friday over at Del Mar. Who do you like at Del Mar on Friday?
Yeah, closing weekend coming up here at Del Mar. Friday, I'm going to go race number 4, the number 9 Case Hit for me. A horse trained by Peter Miller, gets Rispoli aboard. And Rispoli turf sprinting, kind of like him. Maybe not so much dirt routing, but as we talked about. But this horse broke the maiden on debut and then has ran second 3 straight times. I know some people are going to say, man, I don't know, maybe he just can't break through in this next level allowance race here. But boy, each time I thought the horse ran very well, very good seconds. And you look at this field, it's like, I just think Case Hit today gets out towards the front and kind of just outruns him to the wire. I think this is the race. So give me the number 9 Case Hit, 4th race at Del Mar on Friday.
Yeah, I like Case Hit here too. One concern is is Gorgeous Life, who's 5-2, able to go gate to wire for Carla Gaines, but popped a career number doing that. Case Hit just been more consistent. Should be able to sit right behind and hopefully pounce around the lane. You're also going to race number 5 at Del Mar on Friday.
Yeah, Del Mar race number 5. You want to play the daily double here? You could do that as well. Give me the number 1 Usha on top in this spot. Look, this is a horse that had a lot of hype last year for Bob Baffert and just didn't live up to it. A lot of seconds, a lot of thirds in races as a big favorite. Came back last time out in a maiden special weight right here at Del Mar off of a long layoff. And we were like, whoa, that's what people were talking about. That's what people thought this horse could do. An 11.5 length victory in a maiden special weight there. It wasn't the toughest of fields, but this horse was not the favorite. She was like 5-1 that day and was able to do it. I kind of just think, okay, she had maybe some physical injuries or little things happened where she was just disappointing, but now we're going to see her at her best. I know you specifically don't like to play horses coming off maidens to come into the allowance race, first time facing winners. But I just kind of think this is a little bit of a different situation. I think the number 1 Usha gets it done here. I think this horse is ready to kind of live up to the billing we heard about her last year.
Yeah, look, that last race was so good. I'm probably not singling her, but I'm going to use her. I'm not going to, I will chuck these horses at Naira. It's hard to do that with a Baffert because you're not shocked by that level of improvement. Both of my best bets going to come from Saturday over at Kentucky Downs. One of them going to be from race number 11, Mercante. So I do like Mercante a lot there at 5-1 in the 11th race. That's the Kentucky Turf Club Invitational Stakes that we previewed prior to going into the best bets, if you want to hear why. Go check that out. Other best bet for me going to be race number 8 over at Kentucky Downs. This is the $2 million gun runner. And I'm going to go to the rail here with Namaran coming in from Germany. This was a private purchase by Ronus Racing. John Sadler trained, so the main trainer for Ronus Racing. Sadler doesn't ship that often, Aaron. And when he does, he usually does pretty well doing so. Not only does he ship in this spot, he also gets Flavian Pratt to be able to jump aboard here. This horse was in Group 3s over in Germany, won the first Group 3, and then ran second in the second Group 3. Was prominent in both of those. I watched back the replay, was forwardly placed. This is a horse that has tactical speed but can pick up people late here. And I look through this field, and yeah, Giacoso's in here who came off that win in the Secretariat. Yes, you've got New Century who was disappointing last time in a couple grade 1s here at Saratoga. I just don't see that much here that I love. And then I look to the rail here with Namaran, who I do think is going to run very well first time in the U.S., like the 4-1 price. So Kentucky Downs Saturday, race number 8, number 1, Namaran for me at 4-1. The second best bet going to be Kentucky Downs race number 11, Mercante at 5-1. Did you like Namaran on Saturday?
Good pick. Very good pick. I'm totally with you. I don't see a whole lot I love here. Our old friend Clever again is entered in this race.
Yes.
It's like maybe he'll win this one. Probably not, because I'm with you. I think Namaran's going to run well. I love that Pratt gets aboard. I think that's a good pick.
Yeah, going to be you're going to see Clever again forward. We'll see if this turf course can carry that speed for Clever again. But I do think Namaran sits close, able to pounce late, and I get the best turf jockey in the world. So happy to take the one Namaran there as the best bet. Thank you very much for joining us here for VSiN at the Track. Want to thank Matt Deutsch as well, our super producer, for helping us with the graphics, making sure everything runs smoothly on the post-production and the posting side. For Aaron and myself, thanks for listening and watching VSiN at the Track, and good luck at the track.
This is VSiN at the Track.